Wow, we have a full house this morning. This is great. This is really wonderful. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for attending what is going to be a very special press conference as we are announcing the launch of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program. This is a very special moment for the foundation. This is a very special moment for Mr. Tony Elumelu, but this is also a very, very special moment for Africa. This is a Pan-African initiative, and we have press and media here from across the continent. We have media here from Ghana, from Kenya, from Zimbabwe, from Senegal, from Uganda, South Africa. I could name all 54 countries, but there's too many to name. And I want to thank you all for very much for coming along. My name is Claudine Moore. I'm the Marketing and Corporate Communications Director for the Foundation. And I want to thank you on behalf of myself, the Marketing and Corporate Communications team, Mr. Tony Elumelu, the Foundation, and everybody. I want to thank you very much for coming. In your seats, you will see that we've given you all a nice little gift bag. In that gift bag, you'll find some background information on the initiative. You'll also find a copy of The Economist, in which Mr. Elumelu wrote an article on African entrepreneurship with some predictions for 2015 and beyond. I recommend you all read it after the press conference because I want you all to focus. So I want you to read that afterwards. It will give you some great information and insights into Mr. Elumelu's thoughts for African entrepreneurship and the development of the continent. In addition, hot off the press, you'll find a copy of the AfriCapitalist magazine that literally came into our offices 12 hours ago, and you're the first audience to get it. So I want to thank you so much for having a look at it, receiving it, and letting us know your thoughts. Now, this is a socially connected press conference. So I want all of you to tweet, Instagram, Facebook, etc. The hashtag is right behind me. It's on Step and Repeat. It's hashtag African Entrepreneurs, as well as hashtag TEEP. This press conference is also live streamed. So we have our social media analyst who is live tweeting and will be sharing the live stream. So please do retweet so that others in this room and in our overflow rooms and around the continent can also tune in and listen to the press conference. So the flow of the press conference is going to be as follows. The opening remarks will be from our chairman and founder, followed by Dr. Wiebe Boer, who's the CEO of the foundation, and he'll talk about the foundation. And then Parminder Veer, who is the director of the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program, who will talk to the mechanics of the program. After that, we'll go straight into Q&A, and that will be your chance to ask as many questions as you want. We'll do that for about 30 minutes, and during that time, that's your time to ask all your questions. So really take the opportunity to speak to the three panelists. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce and present to you the founder of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, an economist by training, a seasoned banker and investor and philanthropist, and the man who is dedicating himself to empowering African entrepreneurs. May I please present Mr. Tony Elumelu.
Is this working? Okay. This is quite a full hall, eh? So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and welcome to this occasion. It is a deep pleasure and a privilege to welcome you here today as my life story in business comes to full cycle. My name, as you know, is Tony Elumelu. I was born, raised, educated, and I've worked all my life in Africa. I am an entrepreneur and one who has enjoyed a lot of success in my chosen pursuits. You might say that I was made in Africa and that I made it in Africa. And that means so much to me, to be able to make it at home on a continent handicapped by narratives of hopelessness. The fact that entrepreneurs from humble beginnings, like myself, like Ayodeji Adewumi of Joverman, who founded it at a very young age when he was a university student, like Monica Musonda, the CEO of Java Food in Zambia, like Stripe Masiwa of Econet in South Africa, and in fact across Africa, does not only speak to the potential for success in our homeland, it gives hope to other budding African entrepreneurs, wherever they may be, that success is indeed possible on our continent, that they can build the Africa we want to live in. But I didn't do this by myself alone. I believe that one of the key reasons why I made it in business is because early in my career in Nigeria, I benefited from the mentorship of one man, Chief Ebitimi Banigo at Allstate Trust Bank. He helped me to develop my strategic thinking and insights and to channel my ideas into concrete actions so that when the opportune moment arrived at the age of 34, I had the self-belief to gather a small group together to take over and revive a failing bank through innovations in our services. And there was a lady too, Rose Ada Okwechime, who bought into our vision by investing in us when at that critical stage, when people didn't have confidence in us because we lacked track record or pedigree, as you would say. My team and I held on to our bigger dream of becoming a Pan-African bank that serves the whole of Africa. This dream led us into a merger with UBA Group and expansion of the bank into 19 African countries, with presence today in New York, London, and Paris. Over the last 20 years plus I've spent as a banker, I had the opportunity to meet hundreds of entrepreneurs like me all across Africa, many of them young people with incredible dreams and business ideas and energy also, but without the experience or access to mentoring and support required in order to build a bankable business plan. Without these critical resources, these ideas often never make it out of the dream world and into the reality of African soil. I have also met entrepreneurs who are already running homegrown businesses and have deep insights into local consumer demand. They can spot unique opportunities in the market for specific products and services. They can tap into strong networks and often exhibit a burning drive to create innovative, often disruptive solutions to complex challenges. These are the people who can fuel our future, but who often lack the capital, the training, or the support to make a strong, small business to national or regional scale. I believe we can't afford to waste this talent, not in Africa. Demographic trends show that we need to create 10 million jobs a year, 10 million jobs to sustain Africa's young population, who can spell an economic boom or social disaster for all of us. Governments and big corporates alone cannot provide the number of jobs to engage millions of our young Africans entering the job market every year. But I believe that African entrepreneurs can and should. Entrepreneurship is how we make and take ownership and demonstrate leadership in our continent's affairs. It's not up to anyone but us, ourselves, to develop our continent. Entrepreneurship means you no longer have to wait to see who will give you a job, who can seize the opportunity to secure your future, and you can seize the opportunity to secure your future. and in the process, create jobs and livelihoods for others as well. Entrepreneurship will allow our young people to take charge of their futures instead of letting the future happen to them. Entrepreneurship is how we become masters of our destiny and tackle the serious risk that poverty and mass unemployment pose to the stability of our societies and economies. There's nothing more important or urgent to ask for. And there's nothing more important or pressing to all of us as the private sector leaders on the continent. I believe that in business, opportunity is a great equalizer. Some of us will never have made it but for the opportunities we got. And I believe this holds true for many others. African entrepreneurs need opportunity in the form of mentorship, capital, and business ecosystem that favor their success. In other words, we need to institutionalize the luck or good fortune that I benefited from. And I say to my colleagues most time when we gist, I get the feeling, or not the feeling, I feel or believe that God will not forgive me if I did not institutionalize nor democratize the luck that I had access to in the early stage of my career. African entrepreneurs need opportunity in the form of mentorship. In other words, we must join hands as business leaders to help our young aspiring entrepreneurs to grow. This is why I invited you here today. My life has come, as I said, in a full circle, because today, the lucky entrepreneur I was at some point will today embark on the journey of giving back to the continent that has given so much to me, and doing it, if I may say so, at an unprecedented level. Through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program, I am committing $100 million to support the next generation of African entrepreneurs. The next Dangotes, the next Mosepes, the next Jumias, the next Nandos, the next MTN, and of course the next UBAs. The program represents a decade-long commitment to support 10,000 African entrepreneurs and startups. The program is open to entrepreneurs from all 54 African countries. Over the next 10 years, our goal is to create 10,000 African-owned businesses, to generate 1,000 jobs, 1 million jobs through these 10,000 businesses, and to help contribute at least $10 billion to revenues across Africa through these businesses. The program will seek out and support the growth of African entrepreneurs in any sector or field. So the program is sector agnostic. It applies to everyone. We are building an ecosystem to identify and cross-pollinate grassroots innovation across Africa, sparking intra-African trade, African trade, and accelerating success. The program will also promote the role of African entrepreneurs within the global supply chain and put African innovators front and center on the global stage. This is far more than a funding initiative or networking opportunity. It is an act of faith in our entrepreneurs and our young people to transform our continent, to be the engine for the creation of economic and social wealth in line with the principles of Afro-capitalism. Because business isn't just about money. Business is about vision, about values, about plans, about drive, about energy, about commitment, and above all, commitment and development. And my new dream is that at the end of this decade of entrepreneurship, as I predicted in the Economist piece, we will have laid the foundation for thousands of businesses to grow and flourish across the continent, creating new partnerships and trade routes both within Africa and internationally. This is how we will transform the lives of our people across Africa. This is the way we will transform our societies and economies. It is, ladies and gentlemen, up to us to play our own role. And to you, the media, you can help by sharing information on this opportunity to reach all the entrepreneurs amongst us. By helping to track the progress of entrepreneurs and celebrating them so they can be picked up. And by telling the stories of their business growth. And finally, holding us accountable for this promise of reaching 10,000 entrepreneurs in 10 years. I'd like to thank you and look forward to your questions. Thank you again. Let me call on the CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation to come and make his remarks. Wilberforce.
Good morning, all. It's always incredibly difficult to follow Mr. Elumelu. Normally, we speak before him. So it's a pleasure to be with you all here today, and it's an honor to stand here next to Mr. Elumelu as we announce this ambitious and unprecedented philanthropic program to transform entrepreneurship in Africa. 4 years ago, Mr. Elumelu called me and asked me to leave my role with the Rockefeller Foundation in Nairobi and return home to Nigeria. Yes, I too am made in Africa. To return home to Nigeria to work with him to build Africa's benchmark philanthropic institution. He wanted us to build an institution that would execute on his Afro-capitalist vision, a vision that calls for a dynamic African private sector to drive Africa's economic transformation from within. And when we arrived, he gave us, the team, 2 mandates. The first mandate, and he's mentioned them both in his speech, was to create 1,000 UBAs. And by that, he meant we needed to foster the growth of African entrepreneurs so that they could grow 1,000 more businesses that were Pan-African, creating trade, creating jobs, and driving economic growth across Africa. The second mandate was the mandate to institutionalize luck. And by this, he meant exactly what he just mentioned in his remarks. To give other entrepreneurs across Africa the opportunities that he had. It is a widely known fact that 95% of entrepreneurs in a country like Nigeria fail within the first 3 years. It is a very, very difficult thing. And so the institutionalization of luck is our attempt to provide a better enabling environment for entrepreneurs across Africa so that they can succeed and they can build the kind of businesses that Mr. Elumelu has built across the continent. So the first mandate to build 1,000 UBAs led us to our entrepreneurship programs. And our focus was on identifying and empowering African entrepreneurs across the continent to help them build those businesses that would create transformational change. We've done a number of programs along the way over the last 4 years, including a program called the Elumelu Professionals Program, where we placed MBA students from top schools around the world in fast-growing African businesses around the continent, in an attempt to provide those leaders of those businesses with the kind of talent they needed to execute on their strategic visions. We also did a program called the Nigeria 50, which identified 50 of the fastest growing unlisted companies in Nigeria, and to highlight them and to show the world that there was this entrepreneurial energy in a country like Nigeria that was representative of Africa and showed a completely different narrative than most of what you hear about Africa. What was surprising about the program is that the average growth rate for every company we identified was 100% per year for the last 3 years. And that is something that is unprecedented globally. So there's an entrepreneurial spirit and vision in Nigeria and Africa that is just booming and ready to take off. And we hope that this program we're doing now will really, really unlock that further. Another program we worked on, which was initially something we thought of as small and marginal, was a partnership with a co-creation hub here in Lagos to provide small seed grants to startup entrepreneurs who had ideas but needed a little bit of funding to take that idea into a business. And we learned so much from that and from all the other work that we did. And that is all what has come together to create this program, which we're now announcing today. So this has been a journey that is, for us, 4 years in the making, and for Mr. Elumelu, 50 years in the making, or 51. The second part of the mandate, the institutionalization of luck, was where we developed our programs on competitiveness to create a more competitive, enabling environment for the private sector in Nigeria and across Africa. We've also done a number of programs there, including a partnership with the Ministry of Trade here in Nigeria to establish the National Competitiveness Council of Nigeria, so that that institution could be the owner of the competitiveness agenda for Nigeria and help improve the business environment for all entrepreneurs here to succeed. Another program we launched was the Afrocapitalist Institute, which is a think tank designed to do the research and to drive the movement to spread the gospel of Afrocapitalism across Africa so that we can completely change the way business is done on this continent. And finally, within the competitiveness space, next year we'll also be launching a business school to train the future leaders of Africa's private sector. But today it's about entrepreneurs, and it's about the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. This program is the most ambitious and largest entrepreneurship program ever launched for the continent. So this is a really big deal. And more so, it's the largest single program ever funded by an African philanthropist. So this is history in the making. I have a PhD in African history, and I know that one day, 20, 30 years from now, it'll be the future students who are studying what I studied who will be looking at this moment as one of the moments that changed Africa forever. So thank you for being part of it. I would now like to invite the director of the entrepreneurship program, Parminder Veer. She lives and breathes entrepreneurship, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the mechanics of the program. Thank you.
Wow, how do you follow those two? I just, as you've gathered, I'm not from Africa, not from Nigeria, but Africa and Nigeria is in my blood. I have been engaged with the continent for over decades. Thank you. For over decades as a filmmaker, film producer. So I have learned your stories through storytelling, through the amazing filmmakers that I've had the encounter and the privilege to work with. But I just want to say it was 9 months ago, exactly today on the 1st of April, when I sent Mr. Elumelu an email offering to give back. And I read about the foundation and the work of the foundation, its philosophy around Afrocapitalism, its passion and support for Africans developing Africa. I had spent 40 years of my life in the UK working in the media and creative sector. And I was looking to find different ways of giving back. I was in fact thinking of retiring. I got an instant response, and I did not realize that that one email would change my life as it did. So for the 9 months, it's almost like giving birth to a child. As you know, 9 months. Today is Labor time, and you are all here to push this extraordinary baby out into the world. And through this, to touch tens and thousands and millions of lives over the next decade, as a result of the phenomenal contribution that Mr. Elumelu is making. $100 million endowment to a program is unheard of. And I have been across the world looking at global entrepreneurship programs and summit, and nowhere have I seen such an unprecedented commitment, and particularly coming from a private sector leader. So I think we should all applaud that and really welcome this fantastic initiative. Over the last 9 months, I've had the privilege and the honor to work with the foundation's team, an incredible team. 4 years, they have laid the strongest, most incredible foundation. Nothing is ever, they planted the seeds on which this particular program can really take off. And my job has been really to create a framework through which the extraordinary vision, the mission, the goals, the ambitions that Mr. Elumelu has already outlined for you, and Dr. Weber Board has already shared with you, everything needs a foundation. And that's one of the things that I've learned in the 9 months that I've been here, that you have to build a very, very strong foundation. So what I'd like to do is to take you through what the foundation that we have created for this program. Really, how are we going to enable 10,000 entrepreneurs to grow and thrive? How are we going to then generate that 1 million jobs that has already been outlined for you? How are we going to enable those startups and entrepreneurs to contribute $10 billion to the African economy? So I will take a few minutes to just share the broad framework with you, and as has already been advised, we will then take more answer your questions in more depth. So basically, the program begins with an application, and the application is online. Our portal will open on the 1st of January and will remain open until the 1st of March. So applicants from Pan-Africa, that's English, French, and Portuguese-speaking Africa, will have the opportunity to submit their applications over those 60 days. It's open residents of any of the 54 countries that have been mentioned across Africa. So you have to be in Africa in order to take advantage of this program. You cannot be an African diaspora sitting in the UK or anywhere else in the world thinking that you can leverage. You have to come and work and live and breathe in Africa in order for you to be able to stand up and say, I was born in Africa and I was made in Africa. Our goal is to attract 10,000 applications, and that's where the entire room, you, the media, have a phenomenal role to play. You have to help us really spread this story pan-Africa, so nowhere people can say, oh, I never heard about the program. The application selection process will begin in March. And we will, and we have put together a phenomenal selection committee, an independent selection committee made up of people who have been through the process, who have their own entrepreneurial journeys and stories. They have the war stories, they have the wounds, and they have phenomenal learning experience. And they will be our selection committee, an independent selection committee. They will select 1,000 of the best ideas that from the 10,000. So we are giving ourselves phenomenal choice, so that the more applications that we have, the bigger the choice we have in order to select the top 1,000 applications. As has already been mentioned, the applications that we will select, or the applicants and the projects that we will select, will be physical businesses, and some which are technology enabled. Technology is an enabler. But it's the physical businesses across the industry and industry and sectors that offer the greatest opportunity for our entrepreneurs and startups that will be in those 10,000, in those 1,000 applications that we will select. The selection criteria, I think, is important that you should know that we have a very clearly defined selection criteria against which we will select these applicants. Feasibility of the business idea is vitally important. It's really looking at someone with a clear and compelling mission to grow a sustainable business, sustainable, commercially viable business, and which is effectively communicated. So that is important, that we are sowing the seeds for commercially viable businesses. That the project has that the business idea has market potential. As a filmmaker, one of the things that you ask, the first thing you ask is, who is the audience? Who is the customer? So it's a knowledge and understanding of the market, customer, and the competitors for those business ideas. Financial model. It's really important that the applicants have an understanding of the basic financial requirements of running a business, costs and revenue. I know, there is no shortage of ideas, but the ability to then also manage the finances, the ability to attract those customers, and ability to grow that business so it is generating revenues is vitally important. Scalability. We're looking at ideas which can demonstrate potential for replication and growth of their products and services to create jobs and wealth. Finally, equally and fundamentally important is leadership qualities and entrepreneurial skills. And Tony Elumelu has both of those in abundance. He was obviously entrepreneurial skills and leadership is in his DNA. And I fundamentally believe that is the case for African customers and resources. They have to exhibit passion and commitment for the business idea. You know, and I know that it is the fire in the belly that keeps an entrepreneur going. And it's important that that is demonstrated in the application. Finally, I think the important thing, we will then, from the 1,000 applicants that have been selected, they will then join the program. And the program and the components of the program is what makes this entire initiative unique. And I'll just take a few minutes to take you through the components. This particular, the program that our applicants will join, the selected applicants, addresses all the critical inputs and support that entrepreneurs need in order to succeed. The Enterprise Toolkit, we're calling it the Enterprise Toolkit. This is a 12-week online skills training program, which will cover topics like starting a business, marketing, finance, customer acquisition, effective management. These are the fundamental tools that our startups will take from that 12-week program. And these are the tools that will remain with them for the rest of their entrepreneurial life. Mentoring, as has already been mentioned, and I'm an example of someone who was mentored. I didn't go to a film school, and yet I produced films. I didn't go to business school, and yet I set up film funds. That's because throughout my career and throughout my life, I've had the most amazing mentors. Mentoring is vital. And we have assembled over 500 mentors, selected worldwide, who demonstrate passion about business and supporting new entrepreneurs. Our startups, our selected startups, will be matched with those mentors, and they will, and the mentors will go on a journey with our startups. It's a two-way learning, because we believe that this is also a way of teaching the mentors who fundamentally phenomenally successful to stay in touch with what are the new and current trends. And they can do that by really engaging and listening to the startups that they will be mentoring. We will also put together the most fantastic curated online resource library. As you know, startups and entrepreneurs need information, and they need information constantly. And yes, Google has given the world information, but entrepreneurs need specific information, targeted information. And we will curate an online library of case studies. And a lot of those case studies will be examples of entrepreneurial success from Africa, because there is a phenomenal amount of success. We don't have to look to other parts of the world to leverage their case studies in order to apply them to us. We have amazing case studies in Africa. We will assemble the most incredible articles about entrepreneurship, and particularly in the African space, video presentations, research documents, to really enhance the competitiveness of our startups, the 1,000 startups on our program. The online experience will be supplemented by offline or face-to-face. And to that extent, we'll be bringing the 1,000 entrepreneurs, after they have completed their 12-week program, in July to Lagos, to what we're calling the boot camp. If you know the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you will understand what the boot camp is. We will bring them together for a 2-day interactive action learning experience to really develop their soft skills, to share their stories of the last, of being on the program, but even before that, to build networks and to build relationships. the first boot camp will be held in Lagos, and we will see how and if we might rotate this around across the continent over the decades to come. The bootcamp will lead straight into the Elumelu Entrepreneurship Forum. This will become the annual destination for not just African entrepreneurs, but the world to come and hear and listen and participate in the African entrepreneurship story. It will be the annual showcase of African startups to that global audience of entrepreneurs, of business, of incubators, corporates, government, investors, academia, and foundations. They will arrive in Lagos and they will interact and hear and see the 1,000 entrepreneurs that are on our program and going through this journey. You're all waiting, of course, there is funding. You know, when you talk to an entrepreneur, what's the biggest challenge you have? They always say funding. I fundamentally believe that that is not the biggest challenge they have. I fundamentally believe it's all the things that I've said in the forefront, which is the tools they need to succeed, which is the mentoring that they need to continue on this journey, which is the information, which is the networking opportunity. But yes, funding. And we will be providing 2 rounds of funding to our entrepreneurs. The first round of funding will be a $5,000 non-returnable seed capital investment. You note I am not using the word grants because we fundamentally want to shift away from the notion that this is spray and pray program. It is not. Okay? It is a program that says, entrepreneurs, we want to invest in you, because you are investing in yourself. We want to invest in you because we really believe your idea will have a transformative effect. Your business will have a transformative effect. And it will help us realize the 1 million jobs, the $10,000 revenues. So it's, you know, it's really important that we don't use the word grant as you go off and describe the seed capital investment. So the first round is an investment. We do not expect that investment to come back. We are investing because we believe fundamentally in the ideas that we have chosen. The second round, as is always the case, by now, the entrepreneur has gone through the program. They've had the opportunity of coming to the bootcamp. They've come to the forum. They've had the mentor support them and develop their business plan. At the end of that business plan, at the end of that journey from April to December 2015, our entrepreneurs should have a roadmap. You can call it a business plan, but the important thing is the roadmap. They know how they're going to utilize their first $5,000. They also know what it is, what kind of capital and resources and talent they need in order to continue with that idea. We will provide them with a second round of $5,000 investment. And that will be structured more as a loan and as an equity. Not because we want to be difficult, but the reality of an entrepreneur is that they do have to talk about structured financing. They do have to understand what it is to take a loan and what is the responsibility and accountability in returning that loan, right? So it's as much a teaching tool as much as an investment tool. Finally, this program is not a linear program, i.e., the entrepreneurs do not enter our program and then fall off at the end of the table. They remain part of the cycle. They remain, and they will be invited to join our alumni network, the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program Alumni Network. And with that, they will join Africa's largest entrepreneurship-focused alumni network. That is our ambition. It's a place where it's a place that would facilitate sharing, collaboration. We also believe that these entrepreneurs and startups will then also become the future mentors. They will become the future trainers. They will become the future ambassadors for this program. In closing, I'd like to say that this program is truly Pan-African. So please, if you're French-speaking Africa, if you're Portuguese-speaking Africa, English, you are all welcome to participate in this program. We want to support physical and technology-enabled business ideas across the widest industry sector, which offer the greatest opportunity for entrepreneurs to succeed. This program is globally unique. There is no other program that I know of, and I'd be happy to be enlightened, that takes this holistic approach. This program is comprehensive. It reflects the myriads of challenges that entrepreneurs face. Many of the programs will either give you mentoring, or they'll give you funding, or give you access to investors. This is holistic. Finally, we welcome your support, your company, as we embark on empowering African entrepreneurs through the Tony Elumelu Foundation Entrepreneurship Program. For me, it's an honor and a privilege to make my future contribution greater than my past. Thank you.
Testing. Okay, wow. Thank you very much. I'm sure you're all very excited to ask your questions. And now is the actual time that we turn this press conference over to you all. This is your chance to ask as many questions as you like and take as many photographs as you like, but we'll also do another quick photo op right at the end. Omede and Bolanle will hand microphones around. So Omede and Bolanle right here will hand around over the microphones. We also have a translator here for our Francophone brothers and sisters. So you can ask questions in French if you wish. And this is the time that we'll also take questions from our overflow room and any of the photojournalists in the overflow room who'd like to come up right now to take photographs. Now's a great time. So the press conference is now over to you all. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Elumelu. Good morning, Mr. Bois. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to everybody here. My name is Marcel Mbamalo. I write for The Guardian on Sunday. Really? Really? Sorry about that. Yeah, I have just two questions. I must first of all say that this is, like you rightly pointed out, globally unique. I just want to know this program, whether it's, because I know it's Africa-wide, 54 countries. First and foremost, is that age limit for, because I know it targets youths and what have you. Do you have age limit for those who are eligible to apply? One, is there anything that is going to be like quota for countries? Because I know the countries are not, they don't have the same population in terms of the youth bulge and what have you. So do you have a kind of a quota system whereby you say country-specific numbers? You have some country-specific numbers. And then finally, this question goes to Mr. Tony Elumelu. You know, we talk about, I personally like your concept, your unique concept about African capitalism, you know, whereby the private sector, you know, is driving a kind of philanthropy in such a way as to create investments and create jobs. You know, I'm wondering what's your idea about how the private sector could partner government? We know how this government is actually reacting to the price shocks in oil. You know, is that a way the private sector, want to pick your brains on that, is that a way the private sector could liaise with the public sector, you know, like what you're doing now, but on a holistic scale, to create jobs, a kind of PPP on job creation? What's your formula? What's your model on that? Thank you.
So this is 3-in-1 question. Do we take a few more?
My name is Evans Boamensa. I write for the Business and Financial Times in Ghana.
What's your name?
Evans Boamensa, Business and Financial Times, Ghana. My first question is, you rightly indicated that the applicants must be in business for at least 3 years. Is there a minimum turnover that you are looking at? The second question is, how certain are you that within the 10 years, that 1 million jobs will be created? And the third question is, the mentors that you select for the successful applicants, would they be residents in the home country of the applicant, or they will be distance mentors?
Good morning. My name is Aduria Chumba with E-News Channel Africa. Again, congratulations on your initiative. I would like to know, we hear a lot about investors like you providing funding for startup businesses, but we don't hear so much about how successful some of these businesses are. Do they meet your vision that you started out with? If you could maybe tell us some of the investments that you've made in the past, in, you know, how successful have they been? How sustainable have they been? Are they marching towards your vision? Just to kind of give us clarity of what to expect over the next 10 years. That was 3 of my day.
All right, so the way we approach it is I will take some and my colleagues will take the ones that relate to them. Let me start with the question about creating 1,000 jobs. Okay, so I think, Evans, that was your question? Okay, we estimated a million jobs, sorry. We estimated we create 1 million jobs from certain historical experience that we've had. So when we started at Standard Trust Bank, the alien bank that we took over, we started with 97 staff. But today, across the world, Africa, we have over 25,000 jobs. I've created over 25,000 jobs directly. Then we'll have people who support us, contract staff, different levels. So a lot more jobs created. So the truth is, 10,000, if we have even 30% success rate, that would translate to even more than 1 million jobs. So we need to walk through the ecosystem in supporting all of them so that they can succeed. But if we have 30% success rate, that will help us create over 1 million jobs. That's how we came up with it. The second point about job, again, the job, how to create job, partner with government. It is something that most of us believe in. We believe that government alone cannot create jobs. In fact, government does not have the capacity to create jobs, but government can enable the creation of jobs in society, economy. And that is why at the Tony Elumelu Foundation, we've done a couple of things. First is we, working in partnership with the federal government of Nigeria, we co-founded the National Competitiveness Council of Nigeria to help create the enabling environment that will enable businesses to succeed. That has taken off. We're seeing little impact, but because it just started, I believe in a few years to come, we'll begin to appreciate what has been done. If we are able to improve the environment that enables businesses succeed, then businesses, as they succeed, will help to create jobs. That's one of the things government should do. Government does not have the full capacity to create jobs. So that's one of the areas private sector is partner with government. On the National Competitiveness Council, I serve on that board. Aliko Dangote serves on that board. I have other successful Nigerian business people. And it is a private sector, largely was funded by the private sector. The Tony Elumelu Foundation provided the capital for running the office and hiring the CEO, paying the CEO for the first 3 years, just to make sure it's funded by the private sector. And Dangote also has been quite magnanimous in providing resources. So it's a clear case of how the private sector is partnering with government to create this. And I believe you also know recently the president launched the Presidential Job Creation Board that I also happen to chair. I'm the vice chair. The vice president of Nigeria is the chair, and I'm the vice chair. Again, it's a platform that has been put in place to help public and private sector working together to create jobs. We've had meetings, and very useful decisions are coming out. Significant decisions that will help to further create the environment that will unleash job opportunities in the country. So these are some of the ways government and private sector can partner to create jobs. There's a question about quota, age limit. I'll let Pamela handle that. Then the last question about experience in this field. So I have my personal experience in investing in Africa. I invest in Nigeria and I invest in some other African. In fact, we operate in 19 plus on 20 African countries. And we interact every day with local investors, local entrepreneurs. We go into markets and we co-invest, we engage the local investors to partner with us, but we need local presence in markets. And we have seen successes in most of all of these are businesses. So from personal point of view, we've done well. There are opportunities and we have a track record of successful businesses. But more importantly, from third party, other business that I have invested in, we have invested in a few businesses, private sector, privately owned businesses. And I don't know if the ownership would like mentioned there, the names mentioned there, but just to say that a couple of them do well and a few also don't do well. The reason they don't do well is part of what we're institutionalizing in the case studies we're going to share. The ones that have succeeded, we also want to share why they have succeeded so that over time and beyond the ones who have invested in, the ones people with business leaders who know across Africa have invested in, want to learn from them, both success and failure issues they've encountered. But one thing that stands out, and as Paminda said, most people will tell you that capital is the biggest problem, but I don't think so. I think creating the enabling environment is number one for success, for entrepreneurs to succeed on the continent. And when I say enabling environment, it means even tightening laws, the licensing laws and policies, rule of law, property rights, so many things, and even electricity. Access to electricity is key. Transportation network, if you produce. So there's a lot that's making business success in this part of the world extremely difficult. If we don't overcome those, it will be difficult. That is why in our ecosystem of entrepreneurship, we started first with the NCCN because we realized that for businesses to succeed, we must first have the enabling environment. Otherwise, most of these businesses will fail again. And let's create the awareness that for business, that government alone cannot create jobs. For government to create jobs, you need the private sector support. For private sector to do well, you need to create the enabling environment that will make them do well. Then the opportunities will be unleashed. So those are the issues with it. Enabling environment is number one issue. And of course, the individuals themselves, ability to understand business, not to mix business with personal issues and a lot. But those will be the case studies we share, and those will be the issues we mentor when we used to mentor people when the program starts. Okay, let me.
So I'm just going to really address the question around the age limit and about distant mentoring. There is no age limit. The demographics across Africa will tell you that it's a young population. So inevitably, a lot of our applicants and are going to come from that young population. The age, it's from 18 plus. We think that a large percentage of our applications will come from the age of about 25 to 35 to 45, but we're not limiting, the age up to 45. There are people, I am beyond 45 and I could have the most amazing idea. Why shouldn't I apply to be a part of this program? So there is no age limit in that sense, but there is an age limit in the business sense that this is a startup program. This is looking at new startups, new ideas, new entrepreneurs. So we're saying that could be from 0 to a 3-year-old. So you've either got the most amazing idea and you want to participate in this program, or that you've been running a business for about three years. In terms of mentoring, yes, there is distant learning. It is the mentoring will take place through our online portal, mentoring and learning portal. Inevitably, we want mentors to come from the English, French, Francophone, and Portuguese-speaking Africa. But we will also open the mentors application to worldwide. With online facilities, it is possible for you to be sitting anywhere in the world. And there a lot of interest in Africa from the outside world. So we believe by encouraging people to mentor the new African startups is a way of also getting them to better understand Africa. But, given that we don't know, but let's see, we've got applications from Rwanda, from Kenya, and we will have mentors from those countries. So, as there will be an opportunity for mentors to find the applicants from those countries, and it could also then go on to face offline mentoring. So if we've got a whole bunch of businesses from Lagos or from Nairobi, and there happens to be mentors from those places as well, there's nothing to stop the mentor and the mentee meeting with each other face to face. But large percentage of our mentoring and learning will be online.
So let me respond to the question on quota. So there's absolutely no quota. We want applicants from all 54 countries, but the 1,000 that will be selected will be the best from across Africa, regardless of where they're from, etc. Obviously, if we find that we're getting very few applications or very few good quality applications from a certain geography, we would then do more work to get and attract better applications and so on and get more attention in those areas. But there's no quota. So it's not as if X% must come from Nigeria, X% must be Francophone. It's competition Africa wide. You just got to be the best in Africa and we will fund you and we will bring you into the program. The other question, let me add a little bit more on the question about examples of entrepreneurs that we've worked with. And I'll just take a few examples from the partnership we had with Co-Creation Hub, because that's the closest to what we're doing with this program. So one of those companies was called Tracklist. And again, we gave them this seed capital, and they used it now to move from something which was a vague idea, which they knew what they were going to do, but they were still working on turning that into a business. They're now cash flow positive, and they're actually looking for some tech investors to now put some additional money so they can grow. Another one is Budget. Budget came to us at a point where they were pretty established as a social enterprise, but they were more focused on sort of public funding or donor funding, because what they were doing is they were producing public goods, infographics and others that would help people better understand government budgets and so on, and actually make them very easy to access even to someone on the street, that they could understand what was going on in government. And so our advice to them, and the reason we gave them funding, was to say, look, you're building an amazing skill set that then you can actually now market that to private clients who may want something similar. And so they're now building that into their business as well, so that they will no longer be donor dependent and they can actually build it as a full business. Another example is WeCyclers. WeCyclers is basically a unique way of collecting plastic trash from the streets of Lagos and turning everyone who's along the chain of collecting it into an entrepreneur. And again, we are now in discussions with them, from the small funding that we gave them before. We're now in discussions with them to provide a much larger equity financing in this round. So all of these have sort of shown that with a little bit of help and assistance, they can actually get very, very far. But obviously, it takes a ton of work from the entrepreneur. There were one or two that didn't work out, but that's also to be expected. But again, we're going to replicate these stories thousands of times across Africa.
Okay, thank you. We also have some questions from our overflow room. So just a notice to everybody, if we could keep our questions short and one question per reporter, please. So a question here from Classic FM 97.3. This is Emmanuel Odeyemi. His question is, does the foundation intend to give some level of preference privileged to female entrepreneurs? And then another question from the overflow room from Abimbola Adebayo from City FM 105.1. How does the foundation intend to actually get the target, 10,000 young entrepreneurs? And then Omede, you can take some more questions from the room.
Maybe we should just respond to this. Pamela, can you
sure.
just quickly respond to this too? Yeah, the two questions. Okay, the first one is like, do you any preference for ladies?
Any preference for ladies? No,
Even though a lady is running it, and even though one of those who support them was a lady.
We've said entrepreneurs need an enabling environment in which to grow their ideas. Women need an enabling environment in which to grow their ideas. This program, and we've talked about democratizing luck, and we've and institutionalized luck. So this program is democratized. This program is open to all, is gender agnostic. We will, obviously, in our marketing and PR campaign, we will ensure that the campaign message reaches each and every one of us, whether we're a woman entrepreneur or whether we're a male entrepreneur. Just as there's no quotas around the types of businesses or countries that we're looking for projects from ideas from. So there's no quota in terms of gender on this program. I don't know if you want to add.
Well, in terms of targeting, again, it's not necessarily young entrepreneurs. It's people who are probably young at heart, but it doesn't have to be young entrepreneurs. But we're going to be, this is the start of it. This is why you're all here, so that you can help spread the message. We're also working with diplomatic services across Africa to spread this through the Ambassador Corps in Abuja, for example, to take it to their countries in an official way. But the media, especially social media, print media, everything is going to be the mechanism through which we'll get this out there. In year 2, it's going to be the winners from year 1 who are really going to help us get the story out there. But right now, since this is brand new, etc., it's basically all of you who need to partner with us to get this to the nooks and crannies across Africa. Nothing would make me happier as if we could say at the end we have applicants from places as diverse as Somalia, Tunisia, Nigeria, Zambia, Cape Verde. That would be success. Okay, and Parminder reminded me on the gender issue. So our selection board, we actually have 2 of them, well, 3 of the members, because I'm on it also, I guess. But Deji and Nimi are both here from the selection board. The selection board actually has a heavy skew towards women on the board. So Nimi Akingube is the founder of Best Man Games. She's the one who's given us African Monopoly. I'm sure you guys have seen Lagos Monopoly, Nigerian Centenary Monopoly. She's coming out with Ghana, with Accra, Kigali, and then she's like us. She's ambitious. She's going to try and cover the whole continent. And then Deji Adewumi. Deji founded Jobberman when he was still in University of Ife. And in many ways, his story is also part of the inspiration for what this is, because we believe he got a small amount of funding in university and built this amazing job search website. And so again, that's the kind of example that we're looking for. So having someone like Deji on the committee will help us to identify others who are similar to him in universities and other places around Africa. So, but the rest of our committee includes Vera Songwe, who's the World Bank country director for 5 countries in West Africa, including Senegal, Mauritania, Cape Verde. Can't remember the other 2, but in that region. And then we have Monica Musanda, who's founded a company in Zambia called Java Foods, which is basically a food processing company in Zambia. And we have Ori Okolo, who I think many of you in the media, especially the social media space, will know. She was one of the co-founders of Ushahidi and now works for Omidyar Network in South Africa. So again, it's a very diverse committee, but as you can see, it has a very strong representation from women.
Thank you very much. Like we said earlier, the event is being streamed live. So if you're going to ask a question, you may rise, stand, introduce yourself, please. I understand somebody has a mic in front there. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My names are Andy Nsien. I work for Daily Independence. Let me still ask about the criteria because for this selection, is there any basic educational qualification beyond the acumen, business acumen and all that? Because if you get somebody from the primary school, even if has the idea, the skill and all this, it's suddenly going to be limited by, that formal education. Then the other aspect is that, well, that's what I'm asking. So the other one is it just that once you are selected, you jump into the train? Is this a way of monitoring performance and commitment so that at the end of the day, the results are achieved? Thank you.
Morning all. My name is Abimbola Oligbide from News Agency of Nigeria. My question is on the sectors that are, being considered sectors of the economy, because I really like to know if the foundation is going to address each country based on the issues that are peculiar to them. For instance, in Nigeria, we have a lot of businesses around this service deliveries, but we do not have many businesses in the manufacturing sector, and that has been a major limitation for us in Nigeria. So is this foundation going to focus on specific sectors that will drive the economy of each nation? That's my question.
Hello. Can I take? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Yeah. I want to start first. I write for my name. My name is Iken Naubi. I edit a startup digest for Business Day. What I had this morning is quite unprecedented, just like everybody commented. I'm a student of African business history, and in all my readings, I've never had such initiative coming out of Africa. And I must commend this. Sorry, I must commend this initiative. It's quite laudable, and it's something that must be encouraged by the private sector and also the public sector. And that brings me to my first question. $100 million. Did this foundation get support from IFC, AFDB, or at what point in time do they hope to get support from any of the international organizations? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Faye Akimola, the publisher of Deeply Urban magazine. I want to use this time to actually congratulate Mr. Tony Elumelu for what he has been doing for Africa and the youth of Africa. I've actually been following his passion, his progress, and what he has actually lived his life for. My question is to Mrs. Parminder. I want to ask you, since you're the head of the whole team putting together the whole process, I want to ask you, are you thinking of increasing the number which successes recorded by years, or you're just going to be static all along the 10 years? Are you going to increase it with years? Maybe after the first year, you change it to like 2,000 people, you make more people get access to this particular thing, or you're going to limit it to 1,000? That's my question. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Ehidamen, and I report for Voice of America. My question is directed to the head of the program, the entrepreneurship program. I actually just want to clarify. I know you already mentioned that for your previous organization that you've worked with, or the companies, budget is one of them. I specifically want to ask, because this is a question that comes up most times in the ecosystem, business ecosystem. This program that you're launching, is it open to social entrepreneurs, or is it specifically just for business entrepreneurs? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Daryl Kwao. I report for Joy FM, Accra, Ghana. I read bits of your article in the Africa Capitalist, where you made mention of the fact that not all entrepreneurs can benefit from this support because of the condition of their communities. And so, for instance, you set up the Elumelu Nigeria Empowerment Fund to help those communities. I just wanted to find out, is it just limited to Nigeria? Are there plans to set up maybe a similar fund in other countries to help those communities also benefit from this foundation? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ola Desonmu, and I'm a producer for Arise News. My question is for you, Paminda. There have been a few questions about sectors, but with your background in particular, I was wondering if you're going to be looking out for applications from the creative industry, because as you know, in Africa, it's heavily underfunded and undertrained, and most producers and directors find it difficult to get funding for all their dreams and imaginary projects. So would you be particularly encouraging and looking for projects in this field?
Let's have answers to the questions. No more questions.
I thought so.
There's the one more question. This from the overflow room. So this question is from Rebecca Ajifoma from This Day newspaper. For jobs to be created for Africans in Africa, does this imply that non-Africans living in Africa are not qualified? How many application entries are expected from each country? And then another, was quite a long question. Yeah, we'll go with that. This next one's a long question.
So let's start with Paminda. Then I'll wrap up the questions. Paminda, please.
Okay, I have loads of questions. Education. I think, you know, when you read the application form, we do ask for education background, but it's not limited to degree. It's not limited, it's vocational education training. The important thing is, so education qualification is not a criteria for applying for this program. In terms of measuring progress, the applicants from the 1st of April to the end of...
Sorry. You know, you had the answer, and indeed we see, even in our environment here, people who didn't go to school who run successful businesses. And in fact, the art of entrepreneurship on its own is a school. It's a learning process program. So people also, depending on needs, we can always advise people from time to time. We think this kind of training might be good for you to move to the next level, but we should make it equal opportunity for everyone.
In terms of measuring success, so the applicants do have a responsibility from the 1st of April to December, to the end of the program in December 2015. They will be expected to produce 3, and I use the word narrative progress reports. It's not, you know, and I know there are many people who are really good at writing progress report. What I'm interested in is the narrative, and the narrative is what have they fundamentally learned from this journey? So, and how have they applied what they've learned through the 12-week program, through the boot camp, through the participation in the forum, through the interaction that they've had with their mentor. So they will be expected to produce 3 progress reports 3 narrative progress report as they are going through the program. The first 2 narrative progress reports are important in order for them to qualify for the first seed capital investment. The third one is in order for them to be able to reflect back from April to December. What have I learned? How has it helped my business idea to go forward? What more do I need to learn? And how have I really used the money, whether it's the first round of funding, and what is it that I will need to, what is it that I need how much money do I need in order to progress to the second stage? So those narrative reports are really important way of measuring the progress that the entrepreneurs have made on the program. Around sectors, it's interesting because we asked that question as part of our Twitter campaign, which sectors offer the greatest opportunities for entrepreneurs to succeed in Africa. And I can give you a list, and we have included that list now as part of the application in order to find, in order for the applicants to be able to say, this is the particular sector. If I just quickly go through it, it's agriculture was number 1. The agribusiness from our Twitter campaign came up that this is the one that offers the greatest opportunity. And these tweets came from Pan Africa. Commercial, retail, construction, education and training, energy, power generation, fashion, financial services, FMCG, haulage and logistics, healthcare, intellectual property services, ICT, manufacturing industry, media and entertainment, of course, oil and gas, telecommunications, textile, tourism, hospitality, transportation, waste management, and others that they can specify. So it is not limited to any particular sector. In terms of social entrepreneurs, absolutely. The ideas are going to be both commercial and they can be social enterprises. Social enterprises does not mean that they don't have to be commercially viable. They have to have a social impact, but they also, as you will know from very successful social entrepreneurs, they also make an economic impact and absolutely create, in terms of job creation, impact. Yes, the media and entertainment for me is what brought me to Africa. That it's a powerhouse of talent, and we will certainly be looking for applications from that sector.
So thank you for all these fantastic questions. Let me respond to the question from the gentleman from Business Day about outside support. So the entire 100 million is a commitment from Mr. Elumelu. There's no fundraising, there's no nothing. This is all from this man, okay? Now, we've actually found with our other programs that external funders now come to us and say, can we partner with you? We'd like to donate, etc. But the 100 million is completely from him. Anything else that would, if IFC or whoever says, oh, this is a great program, we want to fund it, that would be additionality. But is not something that we will actively be seeking. The way that it would come is that through the incredible performance of the entrepreneurs we work with, we want this to be the benchmark approach to unlocking entrepreneurship. And through that, others will likely want to partner with us, but it's not part of our strategy. In terms of the Elumelu Nigeria Empowerment Fund, which I think the gentleman from Ghana mentioned. So this is a fund that we launched in October. It was launched by President Goodluck Jonathan. And it basically came out of a concern that Mr. Elumelu had, that realizing that some of the entrepreneurship programs that we work on, there are communities within Nigeria and indeed across Africa that because of conflict, because of natural disasters, are not in a position where they can, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in those communities is not sufficiently rebounded that they can actually participate in programs like what we're launching now. And so that fund is actually focused on helping those communities get to that point, again, using entrepreneurship, but in a slightly different way. Initially, this is focused on Nigeria. But again, this is something that if we innovate this here and we kind of prove a new model of bringing these post-disaster and post-conflict communities into the mainstream economy, then it's something that we would like to replicate elsewhere in Africa over time. But that's not a commitment. I'm just saying if it works and we can prove that it works, that's definitely something that we'll consider.
Let me just add to what Wiba just said. I think they've answered all the questions, so there's no need to say more. But the Elumelu Nigeria Entrepreneurship Empowerment Program is quite interesting because do we think to intend to go beyond Nigeria? Possibly, because the interest we're seeing from point of view of even partnership is very encouraging. That is one fund that we opened up and said we will do it in conjunction with others. And already in an unsolicited manner, first, when the day it was launched, the president of Nigeria donated 250 million naira on behalf of the government of the country to support the program. We were shocked because we never anticipated that. Then two, I think last week, we got $500,000. $500,000 inflowed by a business, another successful African business leader in Congo Brazzaville, Lucien Ebeta. So some of this Lucien Ebeta inflowed unsolicited. Just sent a message, he likes this initiative. How can he support it? You know, and that we send that account number of the foundation we sent. And just last week, Thursday or thereabout, the inflow. So the interest, and of course, other key international agencies are reaching out. So the interest we are seeing is very interesting in that space. So we will, starting with Nigeria, innovate, fine-tune the scheme properly, and see how we can roll out across.
And there was one more question about whether we would stay static at 1,000 entrepreneurs per year. You know, for now, we're doing 1,000 per year for the next 10 years. But we do want to make it clear that this program is not going to end in 10 years. This is actually going to be this is a generational program. We're just announcing it now for the first 10 years. In terms of it going beyond 1,000 per year, you know, I think it depends on if there's great success along the way. If Mr. Elumelu is increasingly successful in business, you know, it may move him to add more. Again, that's not a commitment.
No, but don't forget also, that's how we interact, by the way. Don't forget also that the half of it is grant. Sorry, not a grant. Half of it is seed capital, and the other half is like an investment. And so as it comes back, you know, then the family office will decide, why don't we just reinvest this in, again, the program? So it's actually perpetuating.
And will prefer they're from other African countries. We have a French interpreter in the house. So if you would like to speak in French, feel free. We have an interpreter. So we'll start with the lady.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Afolake Omiloye. I work for Africa 24 TV, based in Senegal and in Paris as well. I speak on behalf of entrepreneurs who are based in Francophone countries and Portuguese-speaking countries. Taking into account that the selection committee, I think, are basically Anglophones. And if they are none, do you plan on adding people from the Francophone country and Portuguese-speaking countries? Thank you.
Can I just respond to this? I did a short one. So thanks for your comments. A couple of things have been done. I don't know if Pamela talked about it when she made presentation. We are quite cognizant of the fact that it's an Africa-wide initiative, and that Africa will have 3 major languages: English, Portuguese, and French. And so even the website is designed to you have the English version, the French version, the Portuguese version, the website, and everything we're running those 3 major languages to balance it. And in terms of the selection committee, Wiba did not say everything because we've not concluded on the full membership of the selection committee. But even what we have now, we have someone from Cameroon. Vera Songwe is Cameroonian, though she's based in Senegal. So she is from there. But in the offers we've made, awaiting final acceptance before we can disclose them. We've noted what you said is already reflected in this. Thank you.
There's another question here, a short one from the overflow room. This is Ayo Oleson, from the National Mirror. Sorry if I've completely butchered your name, Ayo. I tried my best. Okay, so what informed the choice of $10,000 in capital? And that's from the National Mirror. And then as Omade said, is anybody here? We have Pan-African media. So anyone from our Pan-African media, please, we encourage you to ask your questions.
Just another question. My name is Taurai Mangusha from Zimbabwe. I just wanted to find out what is your projected success rate for the business that you are going to be funding, and what has informed such a projection? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kiondo Wawero from The Standard in Kenya. And looking at this project, I see it's very practical. And as compared to what we've known, especially from the Western nations, and they've been giving aid to Kenya. And there have been a lot of criticism, especially from Kenya, like a book, I think, from Ghana called Dead Aid. What do you think aid has done, to the African nations? And looking at what my colleague actually from Zimbabwe, in your projections, do you think these people, philanthropists, should jump, into this ship and come up with practical lessons? And still related on projections, and you're talking about sectors. From experience, what would you advise people? What areas would you advise people or young people, the youth, to invest in? Thank you.
My name is Steve. I'm a reporter for the East African in Kenya. I wanted to know what happens if the funding need of the business is beyond $5,000 and the originator of the idea may not have a way of fundraising more money. How do you come in?
Good afternoon. My name is Wana from CNBC Africa. I'm more concerned about the sharing process for the money, because I know each country have their different peculiarities in terms of their economies. So it's still like a follow-up question to what he said. So what is the guarantee that each startup is going to get what is actually required for their business, with each economy is taken into consideration?
Shall we go ahead? Okay. So, Weber, going down that you address some, especially why 10,000. What's magical about it? And Paminda, you address on, and I'll just wrap up. Thanks.
So yeah, again, very good question. So the $10,000 figure basically came from it early on when we were designing the program. We actually looked at four or five cities across Africa and looked at a basket of things that an entrepreneur would need if they were starting up, including registration fees, office space for a year, the cost of 2 staff for a year, and some other basic things like that that they would need to kind of get a business going for a year. And 10,000 was basically around what we landed on in each city. And so we did Nairobi, Kigali, Lagos, Accra, and Dakar. So it looked quite a bit across Africa. And in some cases it was about 11,500. In others it was 9,000. I think of all of them, Kigali was the lowest cost. But basically we said, okay, $10,000.
Sorry, like Kigali was the lowest cost. And if you look at the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report and the World Economic Forum Competitiveness report, you see that Rwanda is well ranked. I think the top 30. So it tells you the correlation between the right business environment and chances of businesses succeeding. So for all of us here, as we write about entrepreneurship, as business successes, about the ultimate and sustainable development of our continent, we must draw the attention of our leadership, our leaders, to the fact that first things first, create first the enabling environment and businesses will flourish.
Okay, so I think that answers that. Let me answer just a few more. If the business needs more than $5,000 or needs more than 10,000, one of the things that will happen through this program is any business that is in this program will immediately have sort of a check mark by them that this is a valid, real business. Plus, it'll get a lot of attention. And so that will actually help them with their local fundraising, right? We also have internal mechanisms, some that we're in the process of developing or considering, that over time they may be able to access as well, which, both from the commercial and the non-commercial side of the business. But again, there's a lot of capital out there looking for good ideas in Africa. And so what we're trying to do is highlight those good ideas. And so I don't think any entrepreneur that's in this program that gets all the way through and gets even the second tranche of $5,000, the investment part, I don't think any of them will have a hard time raising additional capital. There was also a question about the sharing process across Africa. I'm not sure if you meant the sort of technical way that they're going to get their funding or what it was exactly, but
the allocation.
Okay.
It's about the allocation. How do you share, how do you allocate this across Africa, given the different needs and complexity of Africa? I think it's 10,000 per applicant per person. And so, as Paminda said before, majority of the people could come from Ghana or Zimbabwe. What's important to us is the business ideas that you have, your ability to scale through the eligibility criteria. So that's what's important. But the maximum is $10,000.
Okay, and then there was a question about aid, which I think Mr. Elumelu should answer. But in terms of, generally in the whole development space, there is a move in this direction. We're at the forefront of that. And I think what we're doing here, where we're basically saying we're finding, 10,000 people from across Africa that we're going to invest in, and that we're going to spread this wide and broad. I think, this is going to be a way that will further push, I think, the paradigm of philanthropy and donor funding across Africa to be done in a way that's far more transformational in the impact that it has. In terms of, if you think of our goal, we're putting in 100 million. We want to get 10 billion in annual revenue back, plus 1 million jobs. That's a huge return on investment, right? And I think if you would compare that to a typical sort of donor program, it's multitudes of more impact in the long term than sort of a pure grant approach.
Yes, I think it's any question for you. Everything is answered. Okay, so let me start with the 8th question. The truth is, for decades, if not over a century, we've had aid coming to Africa. And so the question is, how has that helped to move the needle? What has happened to Africa as a result of this? Have we made much progress? And I believe you know the answer better than or more than I do. So there's a new thinking by some of us that one, no one but us will develop Africa, and two, that aid, if it must come, should come in a manner that creates sustainability, in a manner that helps to eradicate a problem, in a manner that helps to empower people, in a manner that creates self-sufficiency, self-reliance, and not dependency, perpetual dependency, which in a way has been what aid has inadvertently created. I don't think it was deliberate, but because every year a certain amount will come, so you just wait, you get it, you spend, you get it, you spend. So let's reverse it. Let the investment, the aid, come by way of investment. Let it even come by way of, if you must give grant, give Paminda's type of seed capital, seed capital, so that it creates a self-dependency, self-reliance syndrome. So that is what we think in this area. And that is why we also believe that we should not perpetuate or continue to support that kind of that kind of movement. And that is why with this initiative, we're not just dashing or gifting this money away. We're giving you seed capital to help you prove a business case. Then you come back for another $5,000 to now help you take it to the next level. We believe that therein lies true self-reliance, and therein lies the kind of a solution that will help create sustainability. That is our position on that. On the issue of areas to invest, the advice about areas to invest, you can never tell. So, and that's why it's sector agnostic. Any area, any idea someone brings, let's see it. Most of these sectors, even sectors you don't think will be important. Look at eBay. You know the story of eBay? Who would have thought that eBay would be so successful, multi-billion-dollar company, eBay, creating a virtual, how? But so, and also even look at even Microsoft, even Steve Jobs. If you watch the Steve Jobs movie or read the book, you see it all started. No, it's not possible. This cannot happen. But then they took it to the next level. They have the kind of opportunity we want to create here for people. They have angel fund support. They had a seed capital support, and they're able to translate flimsy idea to what is now multi-billion-dollar organization. So the truth is we don't know what will rule the world. Let people bring the ideas and let's examine the ideas based on the principles, eligibility criteria, and the wisdom of the members of the selection committee, so that we bring out the ideas, let them bring ideas, we'll help them mold the ideas and see what becomes of this. Our intent is that in future, not just about creating revenue of $10 billion or 1 million jobs, we want to create Steve Jobs of Africa. We want to create the biggest of Africa. Let's challenge people and let people know that there's no boundary to or ceiling to ideas they have. So that is so my question answer. Let us not force fit people into any area. Let's leave it open and let ideas come and we'll take it from there. Okay, that is the last question. Is there any more questions?
Some are repetitive, but for the purpose of reaffirmation. So do we skip? I think we can skip.
Okay.
All right, let me recognize quite a number of people have been recognized. The members of the selection committee, we talked about recognize them. But we also have some other eminent global citizens sitting here. I'd like to introduce or recognize Jenda Fraser, who was the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for Africa, and who continues to, her love for Africa brings her to Africa a lot, and she continues to invest across Africa. She's a co-investor in one of our businesses, the African Commodity Exchange that we have. She's the CEO, managing partner of it. And let me also recognize our lady, Angela from Believe in Africa. She flew from Washington, and she's so talking about geographical balance. She's Cameroon. She's from Cameroon originally, but she's an African citizen, representing Africa very well in Washington. Thank you. And again, we have, in fact, when you ask the question about partnership between the private sector and public sector in creating jobs, there's no greater affirmation to that, what is being done, than the presence here with us of the presidential advisor to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on job creation. She is here with us. So maybe you can corner her and answer that question, but I should have called her to answer that question. Okay. And of course, anyway, we talked about Nimi and Deji. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. The morning is not quite over, or the afternoon is not quite over. But in summation, this is a truly historic moment for the foundation, and for Africa as a whole, as I mentioned. And this is an initiative that has never taken place before by an African leader. And I think I'd like you all to join me in thanking Mr. Tony Elumelu for proactively empowering African entrepreneurs in this way. Thank you so much. So we're going to have a very quick photo up on the stage. So you can take your photographs, and if you'd like, a selection committee or other VIPs here to join the pictures. And then another thing is to remind everybody, to the reporters here, that Paminda and Weber are available for interviews after this session. Okay, and you need to come and meet with Bolanle or Toyin. Bolanle is here, and Toyin is in the yellow dress at the back, and they will coordinate the interviews with Weber and with Paminda. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you again.
Waiting this up, when I dey hustle you dey lick lollipop. Now you dey from Robocop, but not to the reality must come out. Ask them who don't know me, Oluwawana. Who want the flow, so with me, Mr. Lover. I'm walking me in the backseat, in the Hummer. One fellow clapping, what they don't wanna see all that. Gonna follow me around my race. If you listen, they're trying to crazy. See me not there to their face. Right now, I don't feel like it. Daddy, come over here. Mommy, come over here. Daddy, come over here. Mommy, come over here. Nítorí wọ́n ti sọ mí di kíkì, nítorí pé wọ́n gbọ́ mi lórí síta kíkì. Àwọn ọmọ kẹyàpá lórí Blackberry Pinky. Àwọn tó ti darúgbó de say what are you singing? Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ Jésù. Wọ́n fún mi jẹ bí àmàlà àti ewédú. Ẹni mi sọ fẹ́ ni wọ́n pa mí but wọ́n ébù. Ìyó ń ṣọmọ kékeré wọ́n gbé mi ní krédù. My guy, we no send whether you like me or not. If you don't like me, my brother no be by force. Gone are those days we don't get the same plus. Phone jẹun dáadáa, pass my myself the job. Waiting this up, when I dey hustle you dey lick lollipop. Now you dey from Robocop, but not to the reality must come out. Gonna follow me